Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. This is Jean-Daniel Ostel. I'm the president of the Java Card Forum, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this first webinar from the Java Card Forum 2022 webinar series. Today's topic is a presentation from Heiko Kruse from IDEMIA. Heiko is head of technology and expertise at IDEMIA, where he is responsible for the evaluation of new technologies, strategy development, and the representation of IDEMIA in telecommunication standardization organization. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the Java Card Forum, and nowadays Java Card is a pervasive technology, shipping over 6 billion units every year in different segments such as telecommunication, payment, identity, authentication, access management, and Internet of Things, to name a few. Over the years, Java Card has been very present in the standardization landscape of this market segment, and it's a cornerstone of the security for them. Today, Heiko will present an overview of standardization with a focus on Java Card technology and where and how it is linked with other standardization organizations. We will answer questions at the end of the webinar. We will open the microphone so that you can ask the question you have to Heiko. If you cannot wait, or if you prefer that we ask the question, you have a chat box. So just anytime, feel free to post the questions in the chat box. And also note that the presentation is recorded, and you will receive a link to the recording, and also we will email the content of the presentation so that you can really focus on Heiko presentation and don't need to take notes or printing screen. You will receive all of this. And without any other delay, Heiko, you are welcome to start the presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jean-Daniel. So, and also a warm welcome from my side to the attendees of this webinar. And don't be afraid, it will not last too long. So this morning it was roughly 30 minutes. So don't be afraid that we will spend too much time on this. Just to add to the introduction of myself, I'm Jean-Daniel. So I'm working in standardization for IDEMIA and the predecessors for now, yeah, roughly 25 years, I would guess, yeah, something like that. Okay, let's start. So just a quick overview. So I will start with why Java Card. So this is basically looking back into the history of standardization and why Java Card has been chosen as a solution, which other standards are existing. A quick view on what is the Java Card Forum, where is Java Card used, and at the end a short summary. So why Java Card? For that we have to look back into the history, and starting somehow in the 1990s, where GSM has really become a huge success and was really growing and growing and growing. More and more countries and network operators jumping on the GSM train and launching mobile networks all around the world. But there was very soon the feeling of several network operators starting, especially in the UK, if I remember well, some old names like Cellnet and Hutchison 3G, they are somehow having the idea to put more services on their SIM cards. SIM cards have been there from the beginning, so they have been used from the beginning to identify the users. And the SIM cards belong still to the network operators. So the network operators had the idea, okay, we probably can do something else with these SIM cards. They belong to us as a network operator, so we can put some value-added services maybe on that. So some additional features, some small applications that can provide some additional value and some additional revenue, and also bind the customers to us as an operator. So this idea basically led to the invention of SIM Toolkit, which was first specified somehow in for the GSM phase 2, and the first release was released 1996. So the first version of GSM 11.14 that I could find in my old documents was from December 1996 in version 5.2.0. And that is pretty much the first new technology that was introduced while I was working in standardization in the telecoms business. So one of my first new technologies. So you can imagine how long I'm already in this business. So I'm one of these old dinosaurs working in standardization. So, okay, now we have the toolkit defined. There's a specification. There are different commands that have been defined, like display text, get in key, get input, and so on and so on. And there's also the possibility to download something over the air remotely via SMS or via cell broadcast. So now we have the commands and we have some possibility to download something. But now comes the big question, how can we make use of these commands? So how to build applications out of this that can run on a smart card? So at that time, at the beginning, basically every smart card manufacturer had the own ideas and developed its own solutions, which are kind of interpreters that have been developed at that time. So macros have been developed to somehow link the different commands, like the possibility to read a menu and select something from that menu, but in a very basic way. So kind of macros that are interpreted by some specific software running on the smart card. So these so-called interpreters, they basically provided an interface between the operating system, which is a very proprietary implementation from the different smart card manufacturers, and those applications that use these interpreters to provide some functionality. So kind of an application programming interface, kind of an API. So now we have different of these APIs. The problem is that the different mobile network operators normally use also different suppliers of smart cards, of SIM cards. So then the problem was, okay, as every interpreter, every implementation of this SIM toolkit functionality was different from smart card manufacturer to smart card manufacturer, it was very difficult to develop applications and use the same application on different smart cards from different manufacturers. So every time an application has been developed, it has to be developed for the specific operating system and the specific interpreter of the specific smart card manufacturer. And then the same exercise has to happen when I use a different smart card manufacturer. So I have to do basically the same development or reporting of the application to develop the same functionality on the smart card from manufacturer B. That was a very time-consuming and expensive experience for the network operators. So there was the idea, okay, wouldn't it make sense to define a standardized interpreter, a standardized application programming interface that would allow to run the same application, develop it once and download it and run it on the different smart cards from the different manufacturers. That was the basic idea. So the idea of a standardized API, great idea, but which one? What is the best solution for such an API? And then a huge and big fight began. And in parallel, also the Java Card Forum was founded to promote the Java Card technology. But there were also different proposals. At the beginning, there were at least 4 different proposals that have been heavily discussed somehow in the mid-90s. One was Multos. Multos is a smart card specific application programming interface, a language developed for smart cards. Then there was also Windows for smart cards. So many people might think Windows for smart cards, how could that work? Then we had C language for smart cards, C language well known from the PC world, and there was an adaptation of the C language made for smart cards. And finally also Java for smart cards. So the Java card technology, which is a subset or a specifically adopted version of Java. Java had the fantastic slogan at that time, develop once, run everywhere, which was basically exactly targeting the objective of this problem with the porting. So now we have these 4 different proposals, but how to select one and what is the best choice? So for those who can remember somehow back the time of the mid-90s, Windows was basically still at the beginning of its development, and it was not seen as a very secure operating system or a secure user interface, which should be used for a highly secure smart card. So nevertheless, there was a huge meeting at somehow in the mid-90s. I think, if I remember well, it was in Paris. There was a huge debate between the different solutions and the different promoters of the different solutions. And at the end, it was decided that Windows for smart cards is not a good idea, especially with the status of the security of Windows at that point in time. Multos was difficult because there were a lot of IPRs and it was very critical from that perspective. So at the end, C language for smart cards and Java for smart cards, so Java card, have been somehow chosen as the possible solutions. Nevertheless, as a first step in standardization, the requirements for such an API were defined, and the specification where this was done was GSM 02.19, and that happened in release 1998. And the first version of that requirement specification for the API is version 7.1.0. This requirement specification was still very open. There was no technical choice made. It was just providing requirements that shall be fulfilled by such an API. And it was still allowing any of the 4 candidates. Although the security requirements made it already quite difficult for Windows. At the end, as I said, 2 proposals have made it. So the Java card, where the API, the technical API specification has been developed, and it's still active, and it's a 3GPP specification, TS31130. And there's also an API specification for the C language, which is in 3GPP TS31131. C language has rarely been implemented. I think there was one company who really did it. They were really heavily fighting for it and spent all the work in defining the technical solution, but it never really made it into the market. So the only solution that remained at that time was then the Java card API. So that's about the history. So what are other standards? When we are looking into the telecoms market, you see here this nice picture which should somehow show a smart card, a SIM. And you see on the bottom, we have the card body, the contact location, and the basic interface specifications, which are basically developed by ISO. So this is the ISO 7816 series of specifications, which define somehow the physical characteristics of a smart card. Then on top of that, we have the operating system somehow, which is the UICC specification. And that is developed by ETSI, SET, the Secure Element Technologies group within ETSI. It was previously called SCP, Smart Card Platform, but recently has been renamed to SET, the Secure Element Technology. And this is responsible for the platform specifications, the UICC. So there are a lot of different specifications, the main one being TS102.221, but a whole bunch of specifications around that, for example, for single wire protocol, for the interchip USB, for contactless, for whatever. There are a whole bunch of specifications. And then on top of the platform, we have the Java card virtual machine and the runtime environment. This is developed by the Java card. Well, no, it's not developed by the Java card form, but this is where the Java card form is responsible for in some way. And then we have the different card APIs on top of the Java card, well, on top of the runtime environment. There's one defined for the UICC, so the UICC API, which is defined by etcset, and then we have the VGPP APIs for the USIM, the ZIM, and the ISIM. I mentioned TS31130 for the USIM API. And on top of, then we have the 3GPP applications, so the ZIM, USIM, and ISIM themselves, which are developed by 3GPP. And on top of that, we have some strange possibilities like the device management or the smart card web server, which are defined by the OMA. And we have certainly also the global platform security for the download of applications or for the security architecture, which is developed by global platform. So you see there are quite a lot of different organizations which are involved in all the standards being used for implementing a SIM card. So that's it for the telecoms market, for the SIM card. We have a similar picture for the banking market. Here it looks slightly different. We still have the same basic specifications for the card body, contact location, and basic interface, so the ISO specifications. The same set, ISO 7816 series. And on top of that, we have a platform and an application which are basically project-specific specifications. One good example is here the MBCO specifications, which are defining not only an application on top of a platform, but they're defining both in total, so platform application. But still, we also have the global platform security running on that. And it looks pretty much similar for the ID market, not much changes, except that here for the platform and the application, these are normally very national specific ID schemes that are developed by the different nations on their own. So you have very specific implementations and project requirements for the dedicated national ID schemes. Okay, and now we come to the question, what is the Java Card Forum? So we are talking a lot about all these different specifications from ISO, ETSI, GSMA, Java Card Forum, OMA, and so on and so on. But there are differences. There are some official standards development organizations, so-called SDOs, standards development organizations. These are normally either regional organizations, like, for example, ETSI for Europe, or ATIS for the US, or CCSA, or wherever. You have different regional organizations. And then you have worldwide organizations like ISO, which is a worldwide organization. And we have also 3GPP, which is the third generation partnership project. Third generation is a bit misleading, but it's still this third generation partnership project where all the different regional SDOs like ETSI, ATIS, CCSA, and so on have joined forces and worked together on a global standard for mobile communication. So they formed 3GPP. So these are the official standards development organizations. And then we also have marketing organizations. There are plenty of them around for basically every market that you can think of. I mentioned here just two examples. For the telecoms market, we have the GSMA and we have the Trusted Connectivity Alliance, but there are plenty more, like OMA, like whatever. These marketing organizations sometimes also develop specifications and publish specifications. The GSMA, for example, does this for the embedded SIM technology, which has been defined and specified by the GSMA. The Trusted Connectivity Alliance also issues some and publishes some specifications. One example is the interoperable profile specification, which is used by GSMA for the embedded SIM. But there are also other marketing organizations which do not issue specifications and just do some promotion or try to lobby their technologies. Java Card Forum is something in the middle. It is also a marketing organization which is formed by Java Card licensees. What that means, I will come to this in a few seconds. But the JavaCard forum does not publish specifications of JavaCard. The JavaCard specifications and also all the related IPRs are not owned by the JavaCard forum, but they are owned by a company, by Oracle. Oracle is the owner of the JavaCard technology and the IPRs behind that. So, which also means that JavaCard doesn't come for free. It's a licensed technology from Oracle, and the licensees need to pay some license fees for using the JavaCard technology. But the JavaCard forum basically is on the one side promoting the JavaCard technology, and on the other side is working together with Oracle to further enhance the technology. So we are working together with Oracle and meeting regularly, developing new features that shall be implemented and promoting that towards Oracle and working together with Oracle, so to create new versions of JavaCard that support the newest technology. So that is what the JavaCard forum does. So now looking into where is JavaCard referenced and used. So I mentioned already some of the APIs. So we have JavaCard APIs that are specified by ETSI. So for the UICC, that is TS102241, where the API is specified. And we have TS102705 for the contactless API. And for the Smart Card web server and for the Card Application Toolkit Transfer Protocol, which are both not that widely spread and used anymore, there are also two API specifications. Then we have 3GPP, which is specifying also a set of specifications for APIs. For the USIM, it's TS31130, and for the ISIM, it's TS31133. And then we also have the old specification TS43019 for the SIM API. And there's also an interesting specification for the so-called Contact Manager API, which is TS31221. For those who don't know the Contact Manager concept, that is basically, the idea was basically to store not only telephone numbers and names in the SIM card, but really try to store complete contact information, like you know from your smartphone today, where you have the name, you have different telephone numbers, you have email addresses, you have addresses, and so on and so on. And the basic idea of this Contact Manager technology or specification was to be able to also store the complete contact information in the smart card, and therefore also an API was developed. At the end, this never really made it into the market because the phones are getting more and more intelligent, and especially with the smartphones, more and more information was moved into the mobile phone, and there was no need anymore to store too much information on the smart card. Then there's also an API specification from Global Platform, the Global Platform API. And for all these specifications, API specifications, there exists also the related test specifications. So looking into how JavaCard is now referenced in these specifications, the only references where JavaCard is somehow mandatory is for the APDU, for the remote APDU specifications, so the data download specifications in TS102225 and TS102226. GSMA also references JavaCard in the ESM specifications, but it is not mandatory. And also 1M2M references JavaCard, but only indirectly, because 1M2M references TS102225 and 102226 for the remote download, which then inherits also the JavaCard reference. But there's no direct reference from 1M2M. It is also worth to mention that JavaCard technology is nowhere mandatory. It's always an optional feature, an optional technology that can be implemented, but it does not have to be implemented. except for the remote download. Okay, summary. Very quickly. So as I said, JavaCard is not an open specification, which is developed by an SDO and publicly available for everyone, but it is owned by a company, in this case Oracle. JavaCard is not mandated by either ETSI nor 3GPP. It is also not mandated by GSMA for the eSIM. That's what I said earlier, so it's still an optional feature. But it is the only specification for an interoperable platform for smart card applications, which is fully specified and also has all the necessary related test specifications to verify the functionality. And the JavaCard Forum is the organization that is working on the further evolution of the JavaCard technology together with Oracle, which is the owner of the technology. That's also what I explained earlier. And that is already the end of my short presentation. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them now.
Many thanks, Heiko, and we open the microphone to take questions that are coming. We have one already in the chat, and the question is, are there specifications defining how JavaCard application accesses low-level services such as crypto, file system, etc.?
This is part of the JavaCard specifications.
You mean that all these aspects are defined as a JavaCard API? I'm not sure the file system, for example.
Yeah, the access to the file system, yeah, it's part of the JavaCard specifications, but there's also the file access possible from or via the API, yes.
Okay, so your answer is that all this is already implemented in the JavaCard API.
Well, yes, basically yes, I would say. It depends on the details, but basically yes.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other question? Let me check the chat. No other question on the chat. Okay. So an interesting one is talking about interpreters and languages. One is there an interest to switch from JavaCard to something more modern like WASM, WebAssembly?
Yeah, I would say no, because JavaCard is, well, you say something more modern. JavaCard is not, well, let's say, not modern. It's maybe in existing for a long time, but it has developed over the time, and it provides a lot of reliability, a lot of security, and also a lot of testability. So I don't see that there is a need for anything new or any attempts to define something new.
Okay, so your point is that there is so many legacy and also that it's very efficient for what it does.
Yes.
And as a result, there's no incentive in the market yet to go to something else.
No. I mean, there are always new technologies on the interfaces, let's say. So, for example, we have the integrated UICC, where you have communication via I2C or I3C or SPI. So all this can also be handled by extending the JavaCard technology. So it's, yeah, I wouldn't say that JavaCard is not really modern.
Okay, we have another one that asks, how can we get access to the JavaCard specification for review? So I guess this one is for review, is more for the future release of JavaCard, I understand.
So, well, to get full access to the JavaCard specifications, you have to be a licensee of the JavaCard technology.
Well, if I may add also, if we are talking about future features for review of JavaCard, as you say, it's an Oracle technology, and they are in charge of the specification. But the Java Card Forum is a great place where you can discuss what would be the features that we would like to have in the next Java Card release. So we don't provide this discussion for review, but if you're an Oracle licensee, of course, you are welcome to join the Java Card Forum, and then you will have possibility to input what you would like to have, as well as discuss on what could be in the future releases. Another question is, are there existing reference implementation of the JIC runtime environment or global platform available anywhere?
So reference implementations, it's a good question, very technical. Oracle provides a reference implementation, but I'm not too much into the technical details. So Daniel, do you have more information on that?
Well, I think when you get the environment from Oracle, you get everything to test and everything. Now, as part of, if you take it as open source implementation from Global Platform and Java Card, maybe there's a few of them around, but none that are provided, as far as I know, by the Java Card Forum nor by Global Platform. You would have to check for that, but from what I know, there are no open source implementation, reference implementation provided by the Java Card Forum or Global Platform. But you would have to check for that for Global Platform.
No, there's nothing from the Java Card Forum and nothing from Global Platform, but I think Oracle is providing something.
Yeah, sure. But is it something called as reference implementation for Java Card? I'm sure. The question is also for Global Platform. So for Global Platform, I'm not sure what is available.
Okay.
Any other questions? Somebody would like to directly ask the question on the microphone? You're welcome. Yeah, I would have one which is more future oriented. So what you describe is more like the state of the art and the success of Java Card in the different specification. Do you see it coming in other fields, or how do you see the dynamics of it? Is it starting to be introduced in other fields than the one you mentioned before, from what you see?
Yeah, I mean, Java Card is basically being used in all the different markets. So when you remember these three different pictures I showed for the telecoms market, banking market, ID market. So for banking and ID, I said it's more project oriented. But most of the implementations, they are also relying on Java Card technology, as far as I know. And then there's also further ideas when looking into IoT and very constrained devices to use Java Card technology even as a further step and streamline it even more to fit to these very specific use cases. So there are new ideas and different, well, I wouldn't say projects, but different approaches how to further extend or adapt Java Card technology to specific market requirements.
Thank you. So do we have any other question for the presentation? Oops. What are the specifications to update Java Card apps on the card?
Sorry, I didn't get what was the question? Can you read it again?
Well, what are the specifications to update Java Card applications on the card? So I guess it's more about application management. Yeah,
it's when you're talking about remote over-the-air updates, it's basically the ETSI specifications, tiers 102, 2 to 5, and 102, 2 to 6 for the security, and you have the related specifications in 3GPP, which are 31115 and 31116.
Okay, so I don't know if the person that asked this question had time to note all this, but
yeah, it's
don't hesitate to drop
chat.
a line, and maybe Michael, you can answer directly with the exact reference of this for those who are interested.
I mean, you have it on the slides, the remote APDU specifications.
Okay. Okay.
So HCT is 102.225 and 102.226, and then it's quite easy because the 3GPP specifications have pretty similar numbers, 31115 and 31116.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Great. So thank you to all the attendants. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and Heiko, thank you for your presentation. As a reminder, you will receive a link to the recording that you can share with your colleagues, and as well as the presentation in a mail very soon. It's the first of our webinar series, so please register to the other one. We have a few interesting presentations coming up, and also spread the word so that the more we are, the better it is. So thanks to everyone, and good afternoon or good morning and good day to all of you.
Yeah, also a big thank you from my side for listening. And I know it's not such a fancy topic, but nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.